So I'm sorry to say that Michael McCarthy, who is a young and works at the Grolier on Saturdays, he was the one who was supposed to do this. Was this his Virgin Flight?
It's among it, but he's done a few before.
Has he? Okay. Anyway, he's a very erudite, and he would have given a much better introduction than I'm about to give, so my apologies. But anyway, welcome to the Grolier. I always like to thank Ifani Menkidi and his family for having bought the Grolier and kept it going all these years.
When was that?
2006 is when she bought it.
2006, yeah. And also for their wisdom in making James Fraser the manager, who has made this place a welcoming and friendly place. So tonight's readers are Judith Goldman, Karla Kelsey, and Sarah Riggs. I'm going to read their biographies. I ordinarily refuse to read biographies because I think that what I like to do is talk about the poetry. So, but these are very interesting biographies. Okay, so I'll just read them all, and they're going to read in the order in which I read their biography. Judith Goldman is author of 4 books of poetry, as well as of scholarly articles on contemporary and British Romantic poetics. Her work has recently appeared in the Brooklyn Rail, the Chicago Review Online, and Transat, and has been featured in several collaborative multimedia exhibitions, including at the Burchfield Penney Art Center in Buffalo. Her current creative critical project, blank, this is like, imagine there was a blank on the page, and then MT, period, blank mount, recovers the research notebooks and literary experiments of Monster, a failed conceptual poet. Now that's an interesting idea. Has there ever been a successful conceptual poet who investigates the biopolitics of British Romanticism and collects sentimental memorabilia of Mont Blanc and Mont Blanc? She is associate professor in English and director of the Poetics Program at SUNY Buffalo, which is where Charles Olson used to teach, right? Anyway, Karla Kelsey is the author of 7 books, including the novel Transcendental Factory for Minna Loy, that's published by Winter Editions, the poetry collections On Certainty, that's published by Omni Dawn, and Bloodfeather by Tupelo, and the experimental essay of Sphere, selected by Carla Harriman for the 2016 Essay Press Open Book Contest. A recipient of awards and fellowships from the Poetry Society of America, the Fulbright Scholars Program, and Yale University. She is the editor of Lost Writings, 2 novels by Minna Loy, Yale University Press, and the co-publisher of Split Level Text. Am I pronouncing Minna's name right? Minna Loy. Okay, sorry. Sarah Riggs is a poet and artist based in Brooklyn. She received the 1913 Poetry Prize for her book Plum and Granite. Now, 1913 doesn't mean she was around in 1913. There's a journal called 1913, which is a journal of experimental poetry, and I guess they give a prize. And her translation of Etel Adnan,
Yes.
Yeah. Time won the Griffin International Prize and Best Translated Book Award. Now, how do you decide what's the best translated book? I'd like to be a judge on that committee. Word Sightings, her essays on the impact of visual media on U.S. poetry, was published by Routledge. That's Routledge Keenan, the British?
Routledge, yeah.
Wow, okay. With her partner, Omar Berada, Riggs runs Tamas, an intercultural arts organization focusing on transition, film, and education. What did I say? Focusing on translation, film, and education. But what did I say?
Transition.
Oh, well, there's sort of synonyms, aren't there? Sorry. And co-edited Another Room to Live in, 15 Contemporary Arab Poets, published by Litmus. Lines, published in May 2025 by Winter Editions, is her 8th book of poems. Was written during the 2016 to 20 Trump presidency, along with The Nerve Epistle, published by Roof. You speak Arabic?
A little bit.
Yeah, impressive. All right, well, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's really amazing to be in this bookstore and with lovers of poetry.
up a little bit. No microphone.
It's great to be here in this bookstore and with lovers of poetry. And we're in really dark times, and SNAP benefits end in 2 days. So just constantly thinking of that, it is a constant drag and kind of ulterior dread and misery for me anyway, thinking of all of these things happening all the time. So this is just one poem. It was written for this occasion. It has a bunch of epigraphs written or read straight through. It will be about 16 minutes or so. It's called A Note on the Use of the Word Internal. So with my epigraphs, Jacqueline Rose states of fantasy, like blood, fantasy is thicker than water. Michal Shapira, The War Inside, Psychoanalysis, Total War, and the Making of the Democratic South in Post-War Britain. In the meeting of 12/22/41, patient A was very disturbed about the news from the Eastern Front and asked Klein if she saw how Hitler took over the command. None of A's concerns about the real situation worried Klein. For her, A's statements meant that Hitler took command inside him. Patient A tried to resist her and lay on the floor with his eyes closed and said, "No, no, no." When A came to the session of 5/2/42, he looked very depressed. Klein interpreted his belief that Britain could not trust its allies as making him depressed and feel like he could not be trusted to protect his parents or not to attack them. Klein concluded that A's Hitler inside was spreading and thereby endangering his good internal parts. Devo, secret agent man. I got one hell of a job to perform for the US of A, got the responsibility of our nation's top security, but every night and day I salute the flag and say, "Thank you, Jesus, cause I'm a secret agent man." Bernard Stiegler, Symbolic Misery, Volume 1, The Hyper-Industrial Epoch. By symbolic misery, I mean, therefore, the loss of participation in the production of symbols. The beating fantasy is an appeal for love to someone else's disadvantage. Unknown boys being beaten to place other people between. It enables me to watch. I hope this is not too didactic. A path ran from violence to law and back to violence again. Unindentured, merciless bedfellow, fresh inroads in the medium of the other's illusion. Each commissioned reality imaginary in its own way, but inverted, so that the way it was written in me kept me outside it, not able to enter its meaning. If flesh will become text or text will become flesh, neither of them saying anything. This same website can be used to email. Each email costs 50 cents, so an email in response is $1. In a series of cages created by metal fencing, one cage had 20 children inside, stored in a digital ledger or blockchain. Post festum, we don't always know who's who. Unindexed back matter in common skin with a reaction inscribed on the interface. No opt-out option in the choice architecture. Motion of passivity hanging on the stock. Unmentalized. Gaudy tableau of auto-reply, autocomplete, free refills from this imperative without which we no longer know how to proceed. Narration as perspective, not a consciousness, or as a function, but unwilling to attribute interior states, each sentence a little pile to sweep away. Characters who wanted to know what others thought and imagined they knew those thoughts, as though by telepathy. or by hosting a copy of the blockchain. When the metaphysical substance is disputed to the lowest, what belongs to the highest, when our arm is raised to strike, it pains us if the blow lands nowhere, merely beats the air. We must provide it with an object. What will we not attack? I hope this has sufficient authoritarian potential. Business casual, dollar, collar, collateral. People love to say unearned, but they also hate productivity. If you abandon them or throw them away, the information is in the sidebar. Police is where the constitutive exchange between violence and right is shown more nakedly than anywhere else. For as they say, what is funnier than being unhappy? Don't you know what sort of animal we're guarding here? A joke is the disguised priest who weds every couple, wrought of the face-to-face encounter, compromise formation, pilot program, body slam, praxeology, running up the tab. This is not a logic of repayment. This is simply a logic of payment. But here we take sides with the object. All wares acquire each other. But first, I will read a series of disclaimers. I'm not sure this makes sense. That's why I'm asking you. Easy money, kennel-style cages and standing room only. Children rest on the floor beneath aluminum foil blankets at a detention facility in McAllen, Texas. Photo shutters into automated thought. Balloons, mylar, party, blow-molded stupidity foam, mind virus, remote control. I think the concern there, Your Honor, is the court finding that sleep, for example, is relevant to safe and sanitary conditions is one thing, but the ultimate conclusion is safe and sanitary is a singular category to the agreement, and it was, one has to assume, left that way and not enumerated. Although Guy had listed specific items such as toothbrushes in her order, told to drink out of the toilet or standing on toilets to gain breathing space, which now houses 1,500 boys in a former Walmart. Tears of urine, tears of tears, ejection into a defiling otherness. Mary said, don't let anyone touch the wall because they're touching her face, and she doesn't want people to touch her face. Liquids can be injected into the porous material of statues and later seep out as tears. Oil that is mixed with fat can be applied to a statue's eyes, which will weep when ambient temperatures rise in the chapel, when they pray or worship in the presence of. The victims have gone too far. Another asked the executioner not to touch his throat. He was ticklish and did not want to burst out laughing. Have you heard of canned laughter? It laughs in our place. My CV circulates for its own sake. Being civilized, therefore, seems to imply a lack of awareness of what one is really doing. That we are doing something because that is doing it instead of us. A worker wants another worker. To guarantee that you are not doing what you are in fact doing, or you are doing what you are not doing, or expresses the direct intention of the character and the refracted intention of the author. But this is not how to live in automatic society. When the metaphysical substance is disputed, assent to the thing itself without preamble. It may be revoked at any time. To the lowest, the highest, relieved of the trouble, and if you enjoy it for me, I am supervising myself in delegated autofill form, alleviating the need to click. Asks me if I would like to tag the face in the meme, but it's not a person. Customize zip ties, suggest smart reply. Feeling active. Did you click a reaction? What else could the real revenge be? Enigmatic raw material projected on the screen, not owner occupied. The object slides away. This is a gray area, identical with its victim. Body is a scar of mind, but mind is a scar predicated on another will, a porn of discretionary power to erase whoever you are. The doer is merely a fiction added to the deed. The deed is everything, in reality denied you. But this adds another step, a bracket or parenthesis. The state treats violence not as a horror to constrain, but a commodity to exploit for its own purposes. If, for instance, a masochist falls down and sprains his ankle, we cannot explain this as satisfying his desire, as when the guilt precedes the crime. This, however, cannot be conceded. Man cannot be said to coincide with a mere life in him. Everything is retaliation, less inhibition, right of last resort. The victims have gone too far. But how does it refer? Allow current location, or simply hallucinating past satisfaction? This field didn't populate. There is no mylar blanket emoji. There is no mylar blanket emoji indexed to reversals, reprisals, tread on me or don't tread on me, how the soul interprets what the body coveted, equal to the deed so long as the deed was being done, but unaware of its part. How many reps? Phase 2 is a de-repression of phase 1, receives its renounced aggression back. What is real loses its reality so that what is unreal may become real, controlling all outgoing payments. What use is blood to you? Would you not at least take some plunder in the process? I am at my task force on the open shoulder, to gang install this training aid using a throwaway. I hope this is not too didactic. It was, of course, the ram whose horns had become entangled in a thicket between the training data and the desired response, to treat Germany, which stood for the injured mother, in the Hitler way, outputs that sound plausible but are incorrect or nonsensical, curates a small set of demonstration data, multiple outputs per prompt. They rank the prompts. My preferences is calling a bluff, is sending a reminder. It learns from my past behavior, but by blocking the way back. And when you do it God's way, as an empirical person, or as a grid offset by fear. Here is Vaudeville's Outreach, published by Elsevier Incorporated. All rights are reserved, including those for text and data mining, AI training, and similar indoctrination. It is easy money of easy money. In the second example, figure 2, we see a call which has gone off track. To detect such abuse of call center resources, it is necessary to identify parts of calls, estimation of call fragments. For I have only this small triangle, a frond, a Salesforce, to control collective recall. Text to image, image to text. The world is naked as one homologous surface, while the pawnbroker beats an old mare. I hope this has sufficient authoritarian potential. How well you take the sentences as your own primary intake. You fill in the holes of power, forced relocation, recognition errors. It stores question and answer pairs that have been previously asked and answered. These pairs can be used to either provide an immediate response to user questions, interior forces that climb through the flesh, standing on toilets, the body escaping itself. Send word we are compressed, lower flesh to cache speech, ruling effigies, wealth pollution, cyber coins. Does justice have to assume a subject who is already somewhere just in their imaginative possession, which nobody asks for and never goes away? God says, love thy neighbor. Sorry, God. The system's performance is beyond the scope of this paper, that we won't dignify it with. I hope this is not too didactic. All that information invades our lives we have as a bare word without asking for permission. We have set a false stone in our ring. We have set a 5-pound stillborn baby in our ring, and now we deceive ourselves with it. that the instruments of active life should lie abandoned on the ground. Digging, I have been digging a grave of any sex, a formal operator, flying in a V. I endure the blur as you shake your mane. You still draw your halter along. You carry a message saved to drafts. You level the mortar with your trowel. Your halter follows you. You are not escaped. Identifying counter-revolutionary behavior by the mentally ill. That is to say, no conformity can be found between the nature of the counter-revolutionary behavior and the person in question's previous political demeanor. The content of the behavior displays a certain degree of absurdity and lack of commensurability with the actual status and capacity of the person concerned. For example, or a person who groundlessly suspects the leadership of persecuting him and then proceeds to focus his resentment upon the entire party. The person concerned carries out the counter-revolutionary behavior in a brazen and flagrant manner, with no sign of scruples or misgivings. In a publicly confrontational manner, he or she will hand out leaflets in broad daylight and deliver speeches on the main road or at street corners. Naturally, some mentally ill people may act in a more covert manner than this. In addition, mentally ill people may write anonymous letters. For example, a person suffering from mental illness wrote a letter to all military regions in the country and to the Central Committee, signing his name as, but he still wrote his actual address on the envelope. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you so much, Judith, for writing us a piece and reading it so beautifully. And thank you all for being here. Transcendental Factory is an experimental biography of writer, artist, and inventor Mina Loy. Born in a London suburb in 1882, she succeeded in building a multifaceted creative life in the face of her oppressive Victorian upbringing, the meager education allowed a woman of her time, divorce when this could ruin a woman, the loss of her beloved second husband, the death of 2 of her children, and the raising of 2 others. She sustained herself through 2 world wars, a global pandemic, a worldwide economic depression, continual personal economic precarity, and immigration as part of the wave of refugees fleeing fascism in Europe. That is to say, Mina Loy persisted, created, and thrived within the ongoing wreckage wrought by systems that nearly a century later show no sign of abating. Transcendental Factory is a love letter to her and to others, like all of you, who sustain a life in art and by extension make life possible. Thank you again for being here. I'll read from the first chapter. Chapters are devoted to different years, and this is 1905. 1905, photographs. 23-year-old Mina Loy poses as Mrs. Stephen Hoyce, the artist's artistic wife. She sits before an easel wearing a print dress, black belt, and straw hat she's bedecked with enormous rosebuds. The large room is crowded with heavy wood hutches, vases, paintings, and the clutter implies she's in a studio, perhaps Hoyce's near the Luxembourg Gardens, where becoming known for photographs of Auguste Rodin's sculptures, he specializes in gauzy art photographs. In a rumpled 3-piece suit, he looks over Loy's shoulder, instructing and evaluating the drawing that neither the viewer nor the photographer, Henry Joël Le Saboreau, can see. Her right hand poised in air as if mid-mark, Loy Loy gazes at the camera with a charming smile. Amber brooch at her neck, flashing. Next, Loy's entirely nude, back to the camera in hip shop pose. Taken by Hoyce, entitled Ducey, after the name she's been known by since her art school days in turn of the century Munich. Thigh-length hair swept over her shoulder, her left elbow lifting at an angle, elongating the line of her body. Robe trailing from her hand to pool over the Persian carpet under her feet. Her right knee bent, weight supported by the ball of her foot, her soul dirty or shadowed, it's impossible to tell. A pose similar to Rodin's Bather and Torso of Adele and Toilet of Venus cast in bronze. A third photograph captures Loy from the bust up. She's pinned her paisley patterned robe to make of her bare chest a white diamond while artfully covering her breasts. She looks in sharp profile to the right, hair Athena coiled atop her head and tied with a floral scarf. Budapest meets British Empire. Elegant, bohemian, so Loy, Mademoiselle Mina, née à Hampstead, Angleterre, Anglaise, as she's listed in the catalog for the 1905 Salon d'Automne above the titles of the 4 portraits she exhibits. Found on a Weebly site, someone's school project on Loy with tarot cards and a map of the Arno. This photo is my favorite, but unattributed and without citation, it might not be of Loy at all. The frame, walnut inlaid with calla lilies carved in mother of pearl. The first use of the phrase absinthe spoon and Alice blue are recorded per the OED in 1905. Narcissism in the psychological sense also enters the lexicon. Photographs of Mina Loy are Mina Loy, have become Mina Loy. Glossy black and white inserts of Hoyce's photos, a touch of Dante Gabrielle Rossetti, James McNeill Whistler, and Edward Burne-Jones are joined by those taken by Man Ray, Berenice Abbott, and Lee Miller in Carolyn Burke's Becoming Modern, The Life of Mina Loy, published in hardcover by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux in 1996, and then paperback by the University of California Press in 1997. Stacked at the front of bookstores and years later appointed the best place among the remainders. Loy looks out from the cover as she leans toward the small bronze statue she cradles in her left hand, eyes catching Hoyce's camera sidelong. A peasant blouse, hair pulled softly back. Also in 1996, The Lost Lunar Baedeker, selected poems edited by Roger L. Conover, is published by FSG, and for the first time, Loy's poetry reaches a wide audience. Here, she poses for Man Ray in profile. A thermometer she's fashioned into an earring dangles from her ear. Eyes closed, she tilts her head toward the light. Sun streams through the vaulted glass roof of the Grand Palais, illuminating Homburgs and dark suits. The ladies glide, pastel satin molded over corsets. An occasional loose jewel-toned silk flows from shoulders in the Grecian manner. As they circulate among paintings and statues, a yellow and black striped cape draped a la Turque trails through the galleries, leaving a wake of Coty's 1905, carnation, sandalwood, and crushed violets, a bittersweet diamond dust of a perfume. And then entering the fauve room, breathing first fierce mauve, Indian yellow, Prussian blue. Water repellent emerald contours the face of Henri Matisse's Femme à Chapeau, which Gertrude and Leo Stein purchase and hang in their 27 Rue de Fleurus salon. Loy will return to live again in Paris in 1923, visiting Stein, whom she'll have known since her Florentine years, 1907 to 1916. Mina will shrug off her floor-length fur, and hand it to Alice B. Toklas. A kiss in the air near her cheek. A photo from circa 1908 shows Matisse's femme positioned such that the woman's towering chapeau, more boat or bouquet than hat, leads the eyes to Picasso's portrait of Stein directly above. Loy publishes one of the first appreciation of Stein's writing in 1924, and in 1927 presents a lecture in French on Stein's work to an audience of over 200 gathered at Natalie Clifford Barney's Académie des Femmes. Loy sketches herself as a stranger, expression haughty and melancholic, large eyes dewy and skeptical, arched eyebrows, her self-proclaimed best feature, full lips, dark hair topped with a flower-bedecked hat. A rough half-moon shape at the breast marks the site of her brooch. Silver and amber, chunks of amber make their way up from the Black Sea through the Bosphorus Strait to the Sea of Marmara, and from the Sea of Marmara through the Dardanelles to the Aegean. Sand on bare feet, wet hem, gathering amber the size of fists, of hearts, to carve into necklaces, amulets, brooches. Into this brooch, within it a wasp suspended, a little sun proliferating bright yellow to sunset, warming Oda Janet, born just 4 months after Loy and Hoyce's wedding, and dead of meningitis at 1 year old in May 1905. Oda Janet's violet eyes, a tree weeping resin onto the forest floor. In 1905, Mata Hari, born in the Netherlands as Margaretha Gertrude Zella, performs her first Japanese-inspired dance at the National Museum of Asiatic Arts, founded in 1879 by an industrialist to house the artifacts he collected along the Silk Road. Collected, traded, swindled, plundered. Stripping down to her spangles and nude body stocking among statues of dancing Shivas, Mata Hari is one of Europe's highest paid dancers. In 1905, the largest diamond ever recorded is found in South Africa. It will subsequently be cut into smaller stones, 9 of which will be incorporated into the British royal family's crown jewels. In 1905, the Japanese wolf goes extinct, and in San Francisco, a patent is granted for a chainsaw for felling trees. In St. Petersburg, the Imperial Guard fires upon demonstrators as they march to the Winter Palace to present the Tsar with a petition for improved working conditions to end the Russo-Japanese War and universal suffrage. In 1905, Einstein publishes a paper on the energy mass equivalence, giving the equation E equals mc2, and thereafter it is known that energy is mass and mass is energy. It is still 1905. I'm standing in the middle of a crowded gallery telling a friend about my plans for winter in New Haven, Connecticut, reading Loy's unpublished novels at the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. The Lampshade Hat poet loved that biography, she says. I continue, regardless of whether I manage to get them published or not, because of the way her papers are arranged and the fragmentary nature of the manuscripts, I need to transcribe them, folder by folder, chapter by chapter, in order to read them. Braids crisscrossed a la Frida Kahlo and fastened with enormous silk roses, my friend takes her phone from her pocket, presses her cheek to my cheek, clicks a photograph of the two of us, and then dives into the crowd. I catch the eye of one of the paintings, a pregnant nude perched on a gold slipper chair, flying squid circling her otherwise empty room. When the Friends Gallery selfie appears on my Instagram feed, my face is blurred, half out of the frame, the pregnant nude perched atop my friend's crown of braids. Energy is mass and mass is energy. Incandescent skin against the dark backdrop drape. carpet patterned with palmettes woven of silk dyed with rose madder, saffron, indigo. Mina's Aurora Liberty and Company robe slips from her hand, her elbow arches in its upward bent pose. The robe's red blossoming chrysanthemums, she says to Stephen Hoyce as he bends behind his camera, were inspired by the beauty of imperfections found in hand-carved wooden blocks arranged in a gridded layout to pattern the fabric's sari. The result, wilderness blooming among dense foliage. Stephen, standing behind her, breathes on Mina's neck as he arranges her hair. The composition suggests that after standing and disrobing her back to the photographer, she will follow the fall of the fabric to the carpet, and skin soft against Bombeck's Maury and mulberry tree, and near the dye vats where the pig shed and the animals rutting. His rosy snout, rooting erotic garbage, Loy will write in Songs to Johannes, its first 4 sections published as love songs in 1915's inaugural issue of Others, a magazine of the new verse. Upon its publication, Hoyce will tell Loy that she's ruined her reputation. A palmette spiking emerald in sun, lotus open, silk stretches to breaking as images stream. On the circular end table, suspended in a glass globe, a lobster body topped with the head of a boy, a dumb smile, he's harmless, a figurine. Weightless, he dreams of a girl in a red dress on a swing, sailing over the grass. The girl pumping her legs is the lobster boy, is the sun, is shining, palmette, palmette, propelled through time by Prussian blue. Mina in aquarium light, feeling into her lobster body. Thank you.
Well, it's really special to be here in this space, which is like a sacred space. I was first here in the spring of 1993 when I was a senior at Amherst College, and the Northern Irish poet Seamus Heaney was giving a reading at Amherst, and I was asked to drive him and his wife back. And so we made a stop here so he could give me a gift of his selected poetry. And it's really special to read with old friends, Judith Goldman, Karla Kelsey. I think of them as poet thinkers and beautiful hybrid people, and James and everyone involved with keeping this space going and having events here. So I'm mostly going to read from Lines, my new book, also with winter editions. And I'm going to start by reading a little bit of the author's note just to give you some context. Before writing these poems, I had spent a lot of time with Bernadette Mayer's Memory, 1971, when it appeared as a show in Manhattan in 2017. In that series, Mayer kept a journal and shot a roll of 35mm film daily. I was thinking about the notion of a series, of life and consciousness happening in the moment and being in the speed of it without judging or forming conclusions, just staying with its language and mental visuals. I felt as though this would make possible a kind of cinema verite of the subconscious through poetic association and its momentum. A book, I thought, could be a cinema of language, in the flow of language that accompanies the mind in associative movement. October 22nd. She to the willow of grass to tell, 4 or more and some strains, mirth in mirror, forsake to say, salient to the pitch maybe sunken, how to tell that time, and under time more remainders and singing to something. Curly into zone, match along trying. Others bewildered, also these answers. Furthermore, to hear, walk into the inner ear. Strange furniture and paprika, more endeared and wandering these ways. A yielding and a foreclosure on rhyme, sleepy to the Zen burial and rebirth. Frail along lake, which indrawn some cacophony and cooperation. The telling of said hour, say, meek in a mouthing to the second, mixed in with the artichokes. Some others were candy flowers and hues, deliberate quicks in the interruption atmosphere. Melody and votes and suggestions. He caw and she forthwith cups, and the milling in the 8 shapes and answers 8, cryptic but determined with direction. Sold to the woman in red, 1,000 more cued into battle, hayseed and floss contagion unspread. Quickly upward glow familiar, then surprising in a quill, hers, frozen remainders of chippers, and it, a gull and sturdy telling at the main, and you, and you, and me, querulous entries into thankful praise, subdued and asking, then to let go. No, not that or that, no less knows. It was a swirling and become, free to tell. Thought ventures into main, and the shortcoming. Had it been there, the intuition? Yes, yes, and they're not surrendering, not to let it get swallowed. No, no. November 14th. Only hour, only thought. Speech, speech. Tell it juiced, heft and slant. Warily amuse once again some futuricity to say, other word, other anger, other. Between them, a footprint the size of Manhattan. Underscore the elements, maybe. A furry designer into deer. Wake into a glancing dream. Do I? Frontier Maine into malleable. Walk on a planet that melts, moves. Thought to assemble a few continents. How to the lanes toward disaster. Hard to find a place to step. Speak, speak, breasts what the world doesn't know. The mouth. 5 tracks toward astigmatism. Otherwise, a crossing over nows. To the skin hard cross. What were so, quickly into chaos, millions go. The thing I meant to tell you, I'm in a constant state of forgetting how to drum up the collective energy. Can you start hoarsely, forgiving the moment into second? Deranged colors of rage and other elements, what you sacrifice to tell. A toss-up suddenly revealed. It was a wish, understanding, a nerve, hit, truth, a what's it, angle into artery, a coursing wish list. Can you derange or angle in a positive? How many negatives again? Sails warping into butterfly, a cost made up of soul. If they could agree, the sky telling again and again, you, a wish for cathedral, touch. Do you want to hear the crazy part? You do? Are you sure? Okay. Torn the tether of intuition, a register of mind temperatures, callously pick at the center. It cannot hold this widening gyre, everyone's death on your tongue tip. Prefer laughter to extinction, the least rope around speech. Twit it true, suspicious trackle, trine in fips washed, crusp, tanglest feet, talped often quirk, frip, tway, truculence, mort, tisper, clops, perverse tumple, frape, quindle snatch, a froth of quipperwill, designated from member, quick to the will of coughing, fortuitous further duck, planned among colors, a zeppeter mouth, timon, shuckle and haste to backwards bobbin, frickle, zoomius, bandersnatch, zupidal carving blade beyond, tumble worth, twirr match. January 21st. The remaining land dwarfed by peculiar tides, mountains of clocks telling the time backwards, other arrows hitting the spot of 1,000 birds, mainly sidelined by a gorgeous matter. Some derangement in the quickening ferocity, a cane of support landing in this spot. How to deter the seconds in a question? That too could be terrible affect. A foray or fray thought to be, a million other meanings by that blunt appraisal. Further removal into sidelines sparkling. Many and only one super blood wolf moon, quickly monitoring the arrival of wings. Other demands upon waters tested. Flurries of souls waving their bodies. March 7th and 9th, 2019. The bodies in the rafters as metaphors rather than people. Land it woke and entailed answers. They recruited legs and other features. It had been an owl's nest now, without the owl. Touch lifted the avenue very high. Some mastery of the wind meant years of revenge. Tell the end before arrivals. That stretch meant delinquency in how qualities of tenor and harp on delays. Forget the answer, not knowing it ever. Rain delays, mind delays, asking where wish list remainder. Who of the nest, wisdom cut into intelligence, fraught allies to see. Memorialize a quench, topically aligned, breakthrough, glass ceiling, veneer, hostility, land in the gully with glasses. April 25th, 2020. It is the who, what, when time. It is the how time, the if time. It is the ren time, the itch time, the crescendo of magic time, saying to a following of heart time, some wings and other promising land time, solely connected in that concavity, the little ring of a cat time, the hollowed ooh time, the watch pot tea time, the southwest northeasterly wind time. Thank you.
Thank you to Tom for stepping in last minute to give the introductions. Thank you to Mont for curating this wonderful lineup. And most of all, thanks to Judith, Karla, and Sarah for the wonderful reading tonight. I'd Let's give them another round of applause. And thanks to everyone who tuned in online, and thanks to everyone who attended in person. We have some books for sale. Poets will be signing books. If everyone could please put your chairs up against one of the walls, I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much. What do you say we take a photo?
Yeah, photo.
Okay, that'd be great. That was a wonderful reading. You're welcome. It's excellent. What do you think, the three of you here? Would that be okay? Okay, great. I'll slide by. Judith. Great reading tonight. Zoom does this new weird thing where it changes the camera.